Welcome all. My name is Angie Abdilla. I'm a Palawa woman from Lutruwita, Tasmania, and I live on Gadigal country. I'm a professor at the School of Cybernetics at ANU, and I'm also the company founder and director of Old Ways New. So what you're seeing here and what you've just heard is an excerpt from an artwork called Meditation on Country, which is opening next week at the MCA, which is part of the Data Dreams Art and AI exhibition. So what you're hearing is Bayami, the creation spirit, who is singing spirit beings into human form, and Grandmother Mimi spirit, who sings the land and waterways and skies into being. The tones and resonances in ancient languages and chanting are used for entering into altered states and bringing life forces into being. So in this particular artwork, we're bringing together two bodies of knowledges, Western astrophysics and Indigenous sky knowledges, exploring the intersections of ancestral time and cosmic evolution. The artwork opens up with a Yallara Ray creation story, which provides the blueprint for key evolutionary events known to both Indigenous sky knowledge holders and astrophysicists. Machine learning is programmed with unique cultural and conceptual interpretations of both bodies of knowledges through visual and sound outputs, which is intended to nudge the science philosophy and evolutionary knowledges and space simulations themselves. Throughout the creative development of this work, the following methodology was utilised: from insight into Indigenous ethic, protocol and code. I developed this particular methodology when writing the paper Out of the Black Box, Indigenous Protocols for AI. The process frames how to embed cultural protocols into code, baking in the principles and protocols into the standards into the machine learning algorithms. As a creative research practitioner, my work focuses on technology as a cultural practice, and in particular in the last 7 years, more precisely how AI can become a cultural practice. So, as we all know, AI is not an independently thinking machine, but the confluence of about 70 years of research and development spawned by novel provocations, such as how do we automate creativity? I'm really curious about this particular pursuit, and more specifically, how we value creative practice and the role of creation in our lives, and how we make sense of this within the increasingly more ubiquity of AI. The one thing that does not change over time is humans' need to commune, to be in community and to be in connection with place. Within this particular final sequence of the artwork, what you're seeing here is some visuals that go with Grandmother Mimi spirit as she calls into being the 4 ecosystems. We see these abstract morphings of Australian native birds as an ode to the native bird creation and also extinction. This particular sequence was created with an LLM and slowed down to highlight the signal loss or the latency from within the native bird data set, technically known as a lossy. In making this particular artwork, I came to the conclusion that the relational quality and connection of resonance, story, within creation can never really be usurped by AI. However, if we commit to AI as a cultural practice, what principles should we be encoding within these tools and systems? In AI, protocols are part of programming, yet they're not culturally considered and definitely not multicultural. What could AI become if guardrails, standards and rules were governed by a system that has sustained the world's oldest, longest period of peace, well-being, and natural resource abundance. I would say it's a truly intelligent form of automation, one that embeds principles and protocols such as reciprocity, relationality, and regeneration into the data sets themselves and algorithms. So, as I'm sure you all know, underneath these buildings is tons of glass, concrete, plastic, and soil, rock, and earth. And beneath these foundations is Aboriginal land. So as you open yourself up to this journey tonight, know that for thousands and thousands of years, learning has gone on here. Walk carefully and respectfully on this land and feel your feet connect with the ground beneath you. And know that you're walking in the footprints of the world's oldest continuum of living culture. So join me in acknowledging the long line of Eora Gadigal elders. And let's consider also how we pay our respects to our current elders. And to our young people, let's grow them up as strong future leaders. So I ask you to also join me in acknowledging the Gadigal ancestors who have continued to care for this place, its waterways, skies, and land, curating it and understanding its many secrets. Enjoy tonight. Thank you very much.
Let's kick off Canva AI Vision Sydney by welcoming your hosts, co-founder and CPO Cam Adams, and Head of Design, Gen AI at Canva, CJ Jones.
Good evening, Horden. Thank you, Angie. That was possibly the most beautiful welcome to country I've ever witnessed. Thank you for contributing that. That was amazing. My name is Cameron Adams. I'm one of the co-founders and chief product officers at Canva. Well, there's only one of us, which is me. And this is CJ.
Hey, y'all. I'm CJ. I'm the head of design for Gen AI at Canva.
Before we get into it, I would just love to ask if you see an empty seat next to you, and it's kind of in the middle of the row, please push in.
We're all friends.
We've got a lot of people trying to find a seat, so if you can make a bit of room for them, that would be fantastic. Thank you. We are very excited to have you all here tonight. Creatives, founders, technologists, investors, and change makers. You are all here in the one room to help us explore where we can take AI together. And I think it's obvious to you all that we are currently living through one of the most pivotal and rapidly changing moments in the history of technology and society. And the truth is, we're all still figuring it out. To help us figure it out, we think that at Canva, it is great to create spaces to connect, to discuss, and shape what the future looks like when it's more important than ever. And I think a great place to start thinking about what we want the future to be is to ground us in how we're feeling. And let's be honest, I think a lot of us, particularly me, are feeling a mixture of excitement, anxiety, and just asking, are we doing the right thing? I want us to all recognize that we're in this space of uncertainty because that is the first step to fostering the right conversations tonight.
Tonight is built on a single question. How can humans and AI work in harmony to unlock that next level of achievement?
My answer to that question is actually this jacket. Do you like it? This jacket was actually created by our production manager. He fed all of this event into AI and said, what should Cameron be wearing on the night? He came up with this, worked together with a fashion designer, and I get to wear it tonight, so I feel very special. Thank you, Jimmy.
And my answer to this question is actually right here. It's actually all of you in the room. Because the reality is that, and if you can't tell by my accent, I think Australia is where creators and founders are already building the answer to that question. What we see is so many different startups and community members and everyone coming together, and Australia really brings that unique place for us. And we see Australia already actually has this track record of building genuinely useful software companies that are ready to take on the world, and it's being transferred right into the realm of AI. From foundational models through to really critical enterprise workflows, we're building companies across the entire spectrum of the AI stack. And that's really what this night is about. It's not just what AI can do and how we build it, but really how do we do this creatively and responsibly and collaboratively. So no matter your level of understanding and where you are in your AI journey, we hope you leave tonight with something tangible. And we've managed to pull together an amazing mix of AI change makers from Australia and around the globe to give you the hottest takes on where we're going with AI. So we have founders, we have product leaders, we have creatives, academics, and builders working on what's the edge of that next possibility. And so we have lots of talks from healthcare, from building infrastructure for infinite creativity, to even designing teams with AI at its core.
Here's what the flow of tonight looks like. You'll get a bit of a break in the middle to grab another drink and stretch your legs. And we have made sure that the keynotes are lightning, the panels are punchy, and the stories are the real deal. So we're making the most of every minute tonight. There will also be time at the end for what we think is the most important thing, diving into your own conversations with all the visionaries that are sitting right next to you. So strap yourselves in for probably the most interesting 2 hours you're going to experience in 2025.
But I do have to give some quick housekeeping before we get the show on the road. So we have bathrooms to the left and right of the bars. We want you to stick around at the end, because have you seen the really awesome activations from both Leonardo.AI and we have the Canva speed dating activation. And the food stations will be open post-show, so in case you're hungry. If you need anything tonight, just ask for somebody with an AI Vision t-shirt. And we're capturing a lot of these moments on camera. You've probably seen our photographers, so remember to smile. And if something really sparks your interest as you're going, feel free to share it online by tagging @Canva.
This is a room full of people who are actively shaping what's next. We're not just passively reacting to what we see. So I want to use tonight to really challenge assumptions, boldly reimagine the possible, and explore how we can use AI to not just be more efficient, but actually truly visionary. And to start us off on that journey on exactly the right note, please welcome to the stage Aengus Tran, CEO of our healthcare startup, Harrison.AI.
Earlier this year, the BBC channel covered the story of Diane Covey, a 69-year-old retired hospital worker who's been referred by her GP to the Royal Surrey Hospital in NHS for a chest X-ray because she's been suffering from a cough. Just like hundreds of other patients who visit the hospital that day, her care team has cleared her X-ray as normal and sent her home. It just so happened that this is the day that Harrison.AI technology is going live. And within hours of being switched on, the case has been analyzed by the AI system and flagged something subtle, something that was originally missed by the radiologist. Stage 1 lung cancer. What would have been a death sentence was caught early enough to change everything. When interviewed by the BBC on how she felt about her scan being analyzed by AI, Diane said, of course in a very beautiful British accent, "I never really understand AI, but I think it might have just saved my life. Thank you. The fact that my cancer's been picked up early give me options. I feel I have a second chance at life. Oop. Next slide, please. Diane is not the only one. If 100 people get diagnosed with lung cancer today at stage 1, with all of our modern medicine, in 5 years, only 5 of them would survive. But if we could just rewind the clock, wind back time, and diagnose them earlier by 12 to 18 months at stage 1, 65 of these people would still be alive 5 years later. The math is simple. Early and accurate diagnosis just save life. The question is, why don't we all have this? Why can't this happen all the time? Well, we're in the middle of a massive capacity shortage today in medical expertise. Before turning startup founder, I was a doctor. It took me 6 years to be trained at University of New South Wales, and probably another 9 years if I want to become a specialist. In Australia, we are shorting 1,000 radiologists, and that number is just much bigger in the US and China and overseas. Even if we start today by hiring and recruiting and training all the radiologists, we'll never catch up. This is an impossible problem. What it means for all of us is that we're waiting longer than ever to get the life-saving diagnosis we need, and that by the time the radiologists start looking at this scan, they're spending less time than ever, and the error rate is climbing. This is why Harrison.AI exists. We build specialist medical AI system that can analyze medical images, detect and characterize critical conditions and diagnosis, alerting care team of critical findings that they need to attend urgently, automating report generation and documentation, something that's time-consuming for doctors. Ultimately, we make diagnosis faster, earlier, and more efficient. Don't get me wrong, this is a really hard problem. For whatever reason, we love to benchmark these AI systems with human exams. And in medicine, I promise you, there's plenty of it. The test that we run earlier this year is called the FRCR Rapid 2B exam, designed by the Royal College of Radiologists, designed to credential radiologists before can start practicing. Maximum score is 60%, is 60. The radiologists have to detect if the case is normal or abnormal and make the right diagnosis. You can see that this is a very hard test. Even credentialed radiologists only score 50.64 on average. And most modern LLM today is scoring just above random guessing. This is not so surprising. Many of us may have tried our own scan on this AI agent system, and you know there's very level of accuracy there. The challenge is that the internet simply do not have millions of high-quality medical images, and the task of giving you a good human response is very different to making the right diagnosis in moment that matters. And that's exactly what Harrison.AI is doing. We focus on training specialized AI system on millions of anonymized exams and fine-tune that with radiologists in the loop through reinforcement learning specifically for medical accuracy. And that's the difference. The beauty here and the promise of all of this is scale. Once the technology has been built and validated, it can never be unbuilt. It can scale infinitely, anywhere, anytime. What we want to do is to give healthcare the thing that is truly missing, an autoscaler. With COVID and other healthcare conditions incoming to our society, the aging population, the ability to dynamically scale up and down our ability to make critical diagnosis will be one of the fundamental technology of our time. I'm excited to be building that. Today, we are processing 35% of chest X-ray in England, for example. Every public emergency hospital in Hong Kong can run seamlessly with our AI through compute. And in Australia, 50% of all radiologists is using this tool. So if you had an X-ray, a CT recently, chances are the AI is already help catching those critical diagnoses in those moments that truly matter. Because ultimately, it is about patient outcome and that everyone can breathe easier. About us, we have this audacious goal that we set for ourselves 5 years ago when Harrison.AI started. We want our technology to positively impact 1 million daily recurring lives. 2 years ago, we blew past the 1 million lives per year in terms of scan analyzed. We just celebrate 10 million scan per year analyzed. And as you do the math, there's a long way to go, and we come really far. There's many problems that AI will solve. This one is worth solving. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage our panelists, Shalailah Medhora, Sherif Mansour, Pier Luigi Culazzo, Marie-Céline Wirström, and J.J. Fiasson.
Well, welcome everyone to this provocative session tonight. My name is Shalailah Medhora, and I'm your host for this evening. I'd like to just start off by acknowledging the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, whose lands we are gathered on today, and pay our respects to elders past and present. The question that we're asking in this panel is the fair go of disruption. What is Australia's role in AI innovation? Australians tend to think of ourselves as laid back, as authentic, as trustworthy, but do these things actually help when it comes to AI innovation? I feel like we could talk about this forever, but we have 20 minutes, so I won't go through and individually announce all of our panelists today. We'll just dive right in. So I want to start with you, MC. As we said, some of those characteristics, those values that we expect as Australians, they can be our superpowers, but can they also hold us back?
Great question, Shalailah. I'll start with a tiny caveat. I've lived in Australia for almost 10 years. Aussie husband, Aussie kids, but I am Swedish-French. I've lived in about 4 continents, so I suppose just a bit of context to my perspective. But a lot of the qualities of Australians are, we are fairly skeptical of hype. We like realness. We want the thing to be tangible. And we typically want to try before we buy. And I think a lot of those things can really be seen as strength, but it can also, if we choose to, see it as a way to hold us back. I think it's about trying to work out how we can go from skepticism and turn that into curiosity and experimentation. And I think that's where we really see progress and we can move forward. If we choose to hold back and wait for some kind of proof around authenticity, that could set us back, right? One example is if I look at, for example, the creative industry where I'm in, there's this healthy tension between what Cam actually was mentioning earlier is this excitement and anxiety. The anxiety is around, the overload of tools and the amount of platforms you can use today for AI. Getting on top of that, the pace of the technology that it's moving at, and people in full-time jobs trying to work out how do I stay on top of this technology and how do I learn all of this? Whilst we have this crazy excitement around what we can do with creative ideas now. Anything can be done. We can unlock any idea. There's literally no more limit to what can be done, which is that, like that excitement side. Talking a little bit about mindsets, if I kind of bring it back to the context of what my day-to-day is, so I work with AI artists from all over the world that are truly specialized talent. So they come from, they have a filmmaking background, editing, animation, motion graphics, and they have been on the tools for years. They have a mindset of innovation first, curiosity first, and obviously creativity. So if we can learn from that, I think that would probably help us a little bit along the journey. But creativity is something I wanted to just hone in on, because I truly think that Australia's strongest currency is creativity. We have a history of being world-class in terms of advertising creative and filmmaking. I think that's just something to really kind of hone in on. And I guess the question is then, are we willing to lead with curiosity and creativity, or are we wanting to just kind of wait for that proof to kind of come around? And I think that also authenticity is not necessarily the holdback, it's probably the hesitation and the caution. But if we actually really try and hone in and lead with creativity and curiosity, I think we can go really far.
Sherif, MCE mentioned there that she thinks creativity is our strongest suit. I want to go to the other point with you, and I want to discuss some of the friction points. What do you think is potentially holding us back here?
Yeah, I do think you have a point on the authenticity side. I think most Aussies would agree that they'd probably prefer an authentic feeling AI that maybe is not as polished to something that is super polished. I think most of us crave the genuineness of things.
Is it our bullshit detector?
Yeah, the BS detector. But like, we tell it how it is in everything we do. And my perspective that I often see a lot is just dealing with businesses deploying AI. And that comes through there too. So it comes probably in roughly 3 different ways. Authenticity, okay, that's a challenge. Why is that a challenge? Because I don't trust it. Okay, why is trust a challenge? Often the priority 0 for most of these businesses is transparency. Like, how do we make sure that when we're dealing with AI in a business context, it's transparent? When I ask it a question and I'm sitting on my desk, it's giving me the best citations it possibly can, and it's not making stuff up. I don't want to look like an idiot. It needs to help me there. When someone on my team's built an agent, how do I know exactly how it works, and can I inspect it? Can I see its instructions? And so I think transparency is just a key ingredient to just helping with that trust, which then helps with that authenticity. I think the 2 other things I see a lot, and it's at the team level, not necessarily the company level, if that makes sense, but as teams deploying AI, they want to add their own team's character to it. And like, I don't mean character like as in personify the AI. I think it's just every team has like in-jokes and culture and their voice and tone, and this is how we speak here and how I deploy.
You don't want it to feel one size fits all.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're in a frontline team in a bank, you have a different voice and tone to the creative marketing team that's working for a digital agency, right? So, and I think that's personalizing it for that team use case is key. And the last one I'll just add is a big part of what's happening right now is this phrase AI slop. I think everyone's heard about AI slop. And you know, if you type a prompt and I type a prompt and Pier types a prompt and we type the same prompt in 12 different AI tools, we'll probably get a pretty similar outcome. And so how do we solve that problem? Well, really, it's just about us applying our taste and our judgment and our opinions and how we think things should work, and how does taste work in our context in my team, in this business, or whatever it is. So I think those 3 things really help with just there's a general feel of authenticity and just accelerate that adoption cycle.
Absolutely. Yeah. JJ, I wanted to bring you in here. You created an AI business that was rapidly scaled and acquired. Can the 2 of those things work together? Can you be authentic and scale quickly?
Yeah, look, I think key to authenticity is really thinking a lot about how we work with AI. I think some of what Sherif was saying is very relevant to that. You know, I think you know, when we founded Leonardo, one of the key pieces for us was ensuring people had a greater sense of control over the models, felt augmented rather than automated. And I think that that's true at any scale. You know, if we think about you know, anywhere from an individual creator working to realise their creative vision, or maybe you know, a marketing team working in a corporate on an advertising campaign. I think it's really you know, using AI as a sparring partner rather than there's this sort of black box to automate the entire task is really how we can sort of ensure that we get unique and interesting outputs. And you know, maybe
sounds like this character point that Sherif was making.
100%. I think just you know, echoing in terms of like if we just think about something probably most of us can relate to is how we use chatbots, right? If you want to you know, write a LinkedIn post or an email or a marketing treatment, and you just go and you put a simple prompt in, you get something back that you could use, but it's probably AI slop. If you want something really useful, unique, and actually authentic, I think you need to do a lot more. You need to provide a lot of context. You need to go through a bit of an iterative process, challenge the responses you get, and do something to finesse that output rather than just taking it as this black box automation that just does the job for you, because I think that's how you don't get interesting outputs. If you want authenticity, I think you need to be part of the process. Yeah.
Pier, one of the things that I know you really want to bring to the table in this conversation is the risk of late adoption versus not adopting at all. I'm hoping you can talk us through why you think that's such a big issue.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, there are risks in adopting AI, and there are risks in not adopting AI. So it's a very difficult balance to keep. I'm quite focused on the risk of not adopting AI because it's something that the game is on. We are on this game, so we can't really avoid it.
You can't opt out.
You can't opt out. And I think the best thing we can do is to just work together, understand what are the opportunities, as we heard from the previous session in healthcare, understand the risks, and managing those risks. What we notice in bringing facts to the table is the early adopters of AI, they're already experiencing a number of benefits, whether it's through software development in a faster way, or reducing risk, or increasing productivity, or even getting better decision or better quality decision, whilst the other one, will struggle to catch up, and the capability gap is increasing over time. I guess the other element is we need really to focus on what the use case and what the problem we want to solve, because that will inform us on what's our risk posture to it. If it's really worth it, you want to, if the reward is high, like in the case of healthcare, it's really fascinating, then you may want to understand that reward against the risk. But I don't think the solution is to opt out. And actually also from a capability point of view, we want to know how the future of our children will look like and where we need to direct them, because some job will change and there will be missed opportunity, new roles that today don't exist. So I think the best way we can approach that, in my opinion, is just to start to lean in and understand very carefully what are the opportunity and the risks.
To Pierre's point, just the earlier you adopt, these teams adopt, the earlier we learn. And we need to find ways to adopt at a risk-managed way as early as possible. And one thing we all need to get better at is learning how we use it on a regular basis and how we can use it on a regular basis. So delaying that is just simply delaying the learning cycles. And these learning cycles are very useful for us to make informed decisions. It's hard to judge without us actually learning from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll throw this open to all of you, but I might start with you, Pier. What are the financial risks of not adopting? And are financial risks the only risks of not adopting?
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's a number of things you can all read on the internet about the numbers. So I'm not going to put numbers because everybody's talking about hundreds of billions of dollars in the next few years, but they're all projection. I think for me the point is, we were just talking about the gap between the adopter and the one that are lagging is increasing exponentially. So if you are 6 months behind, you're not 6 months behind. You're probably 18 months behind, because by the time you catch up, all the technology has been changing, and it's very difficult to stay on top of it. So that will obviously generate financial gaps and et cetera. But there are other important considerations that we all need to focus on, the ethical aspect of it. And again, I go back always to the use cases, right? So there's a lot of discussion around AI, but we just need to be focusing on what are the problems we need to solve and how do we address that to avoid those gaps in the future.
I'm wondering if any of you have any thoughts about what the risks are, maybe not just financial risks, but other types of risks of not adopting.
I mean, I think there's, as much as there's risks, there's also huge opportunities. So I think, one interesting one is maybe from a cultural perspective, something that AI actually offers us, I think, is this enormous opportunity to democratize access to things that maybe would otherwise be out of reach. And I think you touched on this earlier, MC, where, if we look at the creative space, historically, there's been a long interplay between technology and creativity. If we look at, let's say, painting as a discipline, art supplies used to be incredibly expensive, and then came the Industrial Revolution and lowered the cost of goods, and that opened up that industry far more. More recently, the advent of the digital camera and DSLRs with their capability to do video open up the filmmaking industry incredibly. And I think that AI has the same potential in the creative space as we think about creators who are now able to realise their creative vision maybe in ways that would not otherwise have been possible due to financial constraints or resourcing constraints.
MC, we often hear, on that point, I do want to ask you, often we hear creatives potentially being a bit more sceptical of AI as a tool that might take their jobs or might sanitise what is often a passionate project of theirs or something that they have invested a lot of their creativity in.
Yeah.
To that point of cultural sort of risk, what do you make of the creative side of things when it comes to that cultural risk?
Yeah. I think it's interesting that you bring that up because we deal with a lot of this kind of on a daily basis. Talking with creative teams that want to do fantastic work and want to leverage AI, you can see that some groups in the industry are still very hesitant, obviously protective of their craft and protective of their profession, and rightfully so. But I think the reality is that this thing is not something you can shy away from. And we're trying to take a very optimistic approach to how it can actually amplify creativity and enable more creativity. And I think a lot of it comes down to what you've been talking about a little bit, is like how much kind of control can you get in the AI space. So a lot of the fear is around, okay, there's my craft, don't come too close to my craft. But I think also that's the problem there is people don't understand how you actually get to craft with AI yet, and that's probably a lack of knowledge. And that's where the type of talent that we work with it's purely next level talent, where they actually can do all of the things. They can jump in. They can truly create full VFX work or full CGI worlds. But they can also leverage the tools, and that's where they specialized. So in terms of risks, I think AI slop was one thing that Sherif brought up, which I think the craft is a way to counter that, and the artistry in AI is truly something that's emerging. It's like a movement of artists all over the world that specializes. But what we can see is, from a risk business point of view, is agencies are having to completely transform their business model. Same for production companies, because this thing is coming really, really fast. And now with tools being integrated, like whether it's Leonardo or whether you have Figma, where you have Weavy brought into it, you're getting all the control now in place that you can produce fantastic things with AI, and the craft is there.
Let's be real. A lot of people don't understand AI. AI might have a perception problem. Sherif, I wanted to ask you, and feel free to jump in here with all of the expertise in your specific sectors, but what needs to change the perception of AI?
Yeah, I'm big on the word tinkering. I always feel like we need to tinker to inform ourselves in our personal lives. And then when we learn, we can make informed decisions, and we can lobby governments, and we can work out how it's going to impact the workplace and whatever. And if we're not using it personally, it becomes very hard for us to make an opinion. And you all have an experience, each one of you in the audience, and AI will impact you in some way. And so tinkering as early as possible is important. We encourage our kids to do this. We encourage our kids to try new things and try things early. I think what's hard is behavioral change, right? Like, if I have a new task to do, I can do it the old way, or I can just try something new which might not work, might work, who knows, I'll learn something. And so making time for that behavioral change is key. If I look back at other big technology movements, social media wave that hit us years ago, I think we learned a little bit the hard way of some of the implications of this technology wave, just not making ourselves aware. I'm a parent, so when I go to school and I talk to other parents at schools, half of them don't know how to set up controls for things, whatever. So like, because they haven't played with that stuff or set it up. So I'm usually tech support for most of the parents at school, but like stuff like that is just tinker is such an important thing. It's just the Aussie culture of have a go. Like we just got to have a go. Yeah.
And I think also working on the mindset is super important because we need to understand where we can partner with AI as opposed to competing with AI. Because there are some tasks, AI is always going to be better than me in doing math. Or a certain type of calculation are not going to be faster, but there are things that I can be better than AI. So instead of trying to get stuck to what you know and think about, oh, it's going to compete against me, let's go into that race, it's just changing a little bit the mindset and say, well, that task, AI will do it better than me, so you can free capacity for me to other things that AI is not very good at that. And we have a big role to play in terms of ethics and bringing our value to the AI, because AI doesn't grow up with value, so we have a role to play and so on and so forth. So I think collaboration, and you mentioned, JJ, this morning about the augmentation rather than automation. I think that's an important point as well.
Anything you'd like to add in the last few minutes we have?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that I think the sort of Australian mentality is one of relentless pragmatism, but also healthy skepticism. I think that sets us up very well for adopting AI, but also being mindful of its limitations. And I think that kind of very conscious, usage of AI, I think, is kind of what we need to move forward in a really productive way. Yeah.
Final word to you, MC.
I'm not sure if the question's coming up, but for me, it's a little bit what we've talked about is adding the human into the process and the soul. I mean, we talk a little bit about soul because in creative works, there's a lot about, memory and taste and lived experiences and feelings, like the things that AI can't bring to the table, particularly not in creative works, but I would say even in product and UX, like experience design, like these things are very, very human, and these things are super critical to bring to it. And I think some misconceptions are that it's here to replace, and to your point about it's not about automation, it's about augmentation. I think people forget about that. And that's also where some of that AI slop comes from. It's the human in the mix is what makes all the difference.
Absolutely. It's been provoking, as the title would suggest, and I would like to thank all four of you for your thoughts and your insights and your varied experience, and I'm hoping you can put your hands together and thank them also.
Please welcome to the stage Director of Sydney Executive Plus, Dr. Sandra Peter.
Okay, let's get this over with. I am the academic. You know this because I hail from the University of Sydney, which is clearly visible because I am wearing the corporate colors, white, black, and ochre. You can see this from a mile away. What else do you need to know about me? The second is that I am an AI researcher, and you can tell that by the fact that we all wear glasses. The bigger the glasses, the bigger the nerd. But my job is also in meaning making and preparations. I work with leaders, with executives, with board directors across Australia and across our region, not only making sense of the new thing, AI, but also of how it plays out in the bigger picture. And for that, in my job, I get to spend a lot of time sitting down with global CEOs, with Nobel Prize winners, with heads of state and head chefs, with Supreme Court judges and jugglers, asking them, how's the world changing, and what do people like you need to know next? And then I bring that to you. I can tell you we're all heading into a decade of disorientation. This will be the most disorienting time of your careers, but it's also likely to be the most impactful. There was one other thing I was supposed to say at the very beginning. Yes, English is clearly not my first language either, or my second, or my third. So if you can't understand what I'm saying, don't worry, I'm only on for about 8 minutes and 30 seconds, because after 15 years in Australia, this is really the best I can do. So that is pretty much what you need to know next. But instead of trying to rush through everything that you need to know next and make sense of this messy future, in the next 8 minutes and 12 seconds, I will be focusing on kind of one thing that's on everybody's mind here in the room, and that is, what do I need to know in the age of AI? I've been doing this research for quite a few years, and for the last couple of years, when we did the Skills Horizon, the thing that you needed to know is that you cannot fake it anymore. Speaking the language of tech, that is. You need to understand AI and be fluent in the technology to figure out how it applies to your work. This year, the conversation has changed a little bit, because this year, you need to make it work. You need to make it work for yourself, for your team, for your business, for your startup. So that means that you will need to play out this balancing act, because making it work is a balancing act. No matter what industry you're from, you will have to deal with two conflicting sides of the same AI story. It will be tense, there will be trade-offs. You will need to have to figure out how to strike a productive balance between these two sides. It will be dramatic, ladies and gentlemen, because there are two sides to this AI story, and let me tell you about them. You will need to figure out how to manage the clash between efficiency and expertise. You've started hearing a little bit about that, but I'm here to tell you that the story is actually a little bit more complicated, because I know that if I look around the room, most of you, 90% of you, say, AI helps us, it saves us time. I'm sure it does so for me, and it does for everybody else in the room. I also know from research that about 66% at least will see an improve in productivity from using Gen AI tools. So we should be embracing this. It is making us more efficient. However, on the other hand, what if working faster also sometimes means less care? What if it means, and you've all met these people, we're calling them vibers, your coworkers who kind of mindlessly outsource tasks to AI without thinking through it, and then send you those long emails and things that you surely don't want to read. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to work slop. 40% of you have already encountered this work slop in your organization. What's more is that if we outsource, we offload work to AI without thinking about it, that comes with less brain activation. We know that. 55% less brain activity that persists after you've stopped using AI. So think about what you're doing. Balance the efficiency with the need for expertise, because we know that this helps us. 25% faster task completion. We need to bring this efficiency into our organization. It's so good that 63% of executives will tell you that AI will take on entry-level tasks. But what happens if we hire less graduates, or if we develop less expertise in our creatives? What will this do to expertise in the long run? How will you manage this tension? Because make no mistake, you will face this fundamental tension between efficiency and expertise. On the one hand, AI promises efficiency gains, but if we're not careful, it can erode expertise if we let people just offload work and don't support them to develop that expertise. As I said, through my work, I get to talk to hundreds of global CEOs and lots of interesting people, and I brought you a few of these quotes today to try to illustrate what this looks like for leaders. This is Raphael Sank. He runs a very large creative agency in South America, and he was talking about the fact that senior talent is getting amplified and they're getting better and better at their work. On the other hand, some of the junior talent seem to be getting worse when offloading to AI. So how do we think about prompting? How do we think about creating context and developing expertise in young people on our teams and in our organizations? Or people like Rose Herzog, who runs WPP here in Australia and New Zealand, who said that we must learn, all of us, where that line is. What can we automate and what should still be imagined by us humans? Or what we heard from a guy called Robert Thompson. He runs globally an organization, maybe you have heard about it, it's called News Corp. And before that, he ran the Wall Street Journal and he ran the Financial Times. And when I spoke to him, he made it personal. This is not just about business models or efficiencies and so on. It's a form of existential challenge, especially for creatives, in how we perceive ourselves and the work that we do. How can we rethink who we are with AI by our side? Or people like Michael Sprenger. If you talk to someone who's from, and Sony by all means is a technology-first company. Michael runs Sony.AI. And when I spoke to him, he said, make sure that you just don't just think about how you do AI to a thing. How do I make it faster, cheaper, less hours worked on it? But also think about how you can set up your organization to make use of AI. So how can we reorient to make use of things like artificial intelligence? And again, that is a people problem. That is not just a technology challenge. And make no mistake, you will also be wrong along the way. Every year I get to spend a bit of time with someone called Nicole Lamoureux. She's the chief people officer at a company called IBM. There's about 250,000 people who work there. She had this whole strategy about how we will use AI tools and so on, and took it to the executive and the board. And then the next year she came back and said, I was wrong. We try to see around every corner with AI, but we must constantly experiment. We must figure out what we're doing. And if we realize the path was wrong, we admit it and we pivot. We're all in this together, trying to figure it out. And probably one of my favorite quotes from last year, this is Meredith Whittaker. She runs an organization called Signal. You probably have the app on your phone. And if you get that invite from someone in the US government, pick it up. It's probably for real. This is also an opportunity to just slow down and fix things along the way, because AI also allows us to do that, and yet it demands that we move slowly and try to fix things along the way. Good message, by the way, from Meredith, as you step onto that tightrope walk and attempt to balance efficiency and expertise and make AI work. I know the age of AI sounds really, really challenging, but don't worry, finding your balance and making it work, it's not all that complicated and uncertain. I usually, by the way, get to solutions in about minute 11 and onwards, but they only gave me 10 minutes today, so I'm here to tell you that the future is bright. We're on a tight schedule today. I am a cheerful pessimist, so the future is bright-ish. Everything that you need to know, we make free every year. It's a report called the Skills Horizon. So everything that you need to know next is in there. Every wisdom and insight source from all of our conversation, of an analysis of the Harvard Business Review, of everything that's out there, best business books of the year, Davos, South by Southwest, you name it. Everything from from AI fluency to taste making in the age of AI is in our report. And also the solutions. What do you need to learn next? So let me finish this by saying, here's a QR code for the Skills Horizon. At the University of Sydney, we don't condone theft, but for this once, please, you can steal this, and you can steal our slides. So please stay balanced and keep learning and enjoy the rest of today. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage CEO and Managing Director of NEXTDC, Craig Scroggie.
Good evening. Oh, come on, we can do better than that. Good evening. No discussion about the future should be had until we ground it in the past. I like to start with a test. Now, don't panic, because it's not an IQ test, it's an age test. So I'm going to put up something from history, and you're going to put your hand up really quickly if you know what it is. Everyone ready? Okay. Does anyone know what that device is? Model? 2110. Year? Okay, it was a Nokia 5110, and it was 1998. This wasn't the first mobile phone, but it was the device that started the revolution for mobility. There were phones before this device, but this is the one that really gave us the ability to move. And some of you may remember the beautiful feeling of a tactile keyboard attached to a BlackBerry. And when the BlackBerry team took a keyboard and attached it to the mobile phone, it was at that moment that I thought I may never have to go to the office again. But for those of you who owned a BlackBerry, at the time it seemed like magic, because all of the complexity of connecting to the office and the information networks just happened. But the most significant shift in infrastructure was in 2007. And when Steve Jobs created the iPhone, it wasn't just the device that was probably the single most important moment in recent history. It was the application economy. It was the beginning of our ability to be able to build tools. We had access to infrastructure that allowed us to create on applications. I took this photo standing on the Consumer Electronics Show floor in Las Vegas when Kodak went Chapter 11 bankrupt. And I was reminded, as my daughter, my youngest, is finishing year 12, the most important thing that she had to take to her graduation with her was a film camera. As we've gone full circle in technology, Professor Joseph Schumpeter, what's called Schumpeter's Gale, was responsible for coining the term creative destruction. Old industries must die in order to give way to new ones. Peter Diamandis and Stephen Kotler created a model in the book Abundance, or The Future is Faster Than You Think. It talks about the shift from analog to digital. And many of the technologies that we are seeing today in the AI era, people are asking themselves the question, is AI a bubble? Is the technology real? The reality is we have seen this moment in history before. And Kotler has created a model for it. Those disruptive technologies move very quickly. And once they dematerialize and demonetize, just like everything in the application on your iPhone does today, whether it was a VHS movie that you used to get on a Saturday night to watch as a kid, or it's a GPS you used to get in a hire car, all of those things dematerialized. We have access to this technology today because in 1965, Gordon Moore, the co-founder of Intel, wrote a seminal white paper. The number of transistors on an integrated circuit would double every 18 to 24 months. He was right for 50 years. It's extraordinary that the capability that we have, compute continued to go up, and as Jevons paradox has proven, the more of a technology that we use, the more we produce, and the cost will continue to fall. At the same time, all of these devices were changing the way we worked. The internet itself was changing. Web 1, we wrote and posted things on bulletin boards. Web 2 was the first time that we started to interact with the internet. So whether it was Facebook or MySpace, you are able to write and receive information in return. But the internet wasn't designed for anonymity, to protect security. So as we move into the blockchain, Web 3 will solve many of the challenges that we've had since the internet was created. So we go from history to the present. This is the fourth generation of computing. So we had mainframe, client servers, the cloud over the course of the last decade, and now AI. This is the beginning of the fourth industrial revolution. So steam, electricity, the internet, and now AI. It's not the beginning, we are in it right now. We know we're in it because all of the key drivers are accelerating. In the last 2 years, we created more information than in all of history, and we will do that again every 2 years. The internet took 7 years to be the equivalent of what has happened in the last single year in artificial intelligence. And I get to do this every day and wake up and think about building infrastructure that supports the growth of artificial intelligence. And every day I think to myself, it can't get any crazier than it is today. And every day something amazing happens. I think the best way to think about it or look at that from an evidence perspective, is to consider that in 2 months, OpenAI had 100 million users and all these other great applications that took time to build that level of usage. The thing that's really stunning is not only did they get 100 million, but then they got 400 million and 800 million. So when you hear a lot of questions today about whether AI is a bubble, whether there is questions around the economic rationale for investing in large-scale infrastructure, the evidence is in the user growth, and ultimately the revenue will come over time. So when we think about the future, my favourite phrase came from Bill Gates. We almost always overestimate what can be achieved in 1 year and underestimate what can be achieved in a decade. So the rate of change is massively accelerating. So that speeding up is happening because NVIDIA changed the fundamental base law of computing, which was Moore's law. So what's now Wang's law is the shift from CPUs to GPUs. We're now in the era of accelerated computing. And as you can see, the total amount of compute that's available to solve problems is going to be 10 to 100 times greater than any other point in time in history. Head of Artificial Intelligence at Google, Ray Kurzweil, basically said technology built by technology will drive an exponential rate of change. The reason things are speeding up is that we are using tools to build tools. Agentic workers will use those tools to build new technologies. So it's not only artificial intelligence that will go through an exponential rate of change, but all the associated industries that will benefit from those will get accelerated at the same time. So let's go all the way back in history to November 22, and I know exactly where Cliff and I were because we were together at the time looking at this ChatGPT product. And at the time I thought, it's magic. It's completely magic because I can't believe that you can ask the machine a question and get a reasoned response, or what seemed like a reasoned response. It feels like magic. And if this had been the worst than it would ever have been, I would have been pretty impressed. But think about where we are today. What is possible? If someone read 24 hours a day for their entire life, didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't do anything else, you could read 8 billion words. But an AI can consume 8 trillion words in a single month. Knowledge will be universally commoditized. So today, if you use ChatGPT and you use the free version, that's great. But if you go all the way to the pro version and pay $200 a month, you have unlimited computing capacity, the equivalent of a PhD researcher. Now, if I said to you, you could hire a PhD student for $200 a month that doesn't need to sleep, doesn't need to eat, doesn't need to go home, you would probably call that illegal. So context awareness, a couple of things really quickly.
What does that part of the code do?
This code defines encryption and decryption functions. It seems to use AES-CBC encryption to encode and decode data based on a key and an initialization vector, IV.
People used to go to school for years to get an undergraduate degree in computer science. That knowledge is available today. That's the Google version. I have the Meta Glass. The new version of the Meta Glass does that in real time. So our ability to be able to synthesize information and do things that we couldn't do really is unlimited. And when you combine AI with robotics, now tell me, who doesn't want one of these doing there? Don't worry about your dishwasher. We've all got a vacuum going around at home that's a robot. This has got a whole body. So the combination of AI and robotics means that significant working hours will come back to us from a creativity point of view. We will be able to do things that we were never able to do at any other point in time in history. I made this video in Las Vegas about 4 or 5 weeks ago. This is a Zoox. Amazon's been developing this product for a long time. No steering wheel, no pedals, no driver. That'll take you wherever you want to go. So the change in jobs will mean that people who used to do these roles will get to do new ones. Waymo is doing exactly the same thing, and they've done tens of millions of writes. So the future is already here, but it's not here locally right in front of us. Many of the key impediments to change regulatory or policy. But one thing we know with absolute certainty is that that will change, and we will have access to take advantage of these opportunities. So what does it mean for us? Building the infrastructure of the AI era is the single most significant change in the history of technology, and we are alive to see it right now. It's amazing. The Internet of Things, when you combine the hundreds of submarine cables that are traversing the Earth, that are connecting every country, 5G and then moving to 6G technology will give us access in remote areas that we've never had before. And then when you think about the scale of companies like SpaceX for the Starlink infrastructure, it means that everybody in every country will have access to the internet. The technology in the AI era, driven by GPUs, is building artificial intelligence factories. That's what we do. It's a great privilege to be able to build those, because everything that we've seen in technology in the last 30 years, from mobility to the internet, the last decade in cloud, and what we are starting to experience today in artificial intelligence, means that everything is about to change. But it's not going to change in a negative way, because productivity, the opportunity to do things with that, will change the way we work. So from my point of view, this is the single most significant opportunity in history to improve productivity and change our lives. Thank you.
An incredible set of talks, and that was just the first half, wasn't it? Wasn't it amazing?
I actually learned quite a lot. I was really, really shocked by the amount of information. I work in this space, so.
I loved opening with Angus's supremely human message. Sandra's amazing, balancing act between efficiency and expertise, and then who doesn't love a bit of Craig's Scroggie energy to slam the accelerator on and get you into the future. We're going to go to a break, I think.
Yeah, we're going to go to a 15-minute break. You know, if you need to stretch your legs, grab a drink, go to the restroom, and then we'll see you back here for the second half. You'll be called back by a beautifully AI-generated video from our partners at Omni and Otis. So make sure you get to your seats by then and squeeze in so everyone can be friends together. But we'll see you back here soon.
Please welcome back to the stage your hosts, Cam Adams and CJ Jones.
Welcome back. I hope you had a good recharge during the break and had some of those amazing conversations. What an amazing visual sorbet that was for us to dive into the second half.
So in the first half of the night, we looked at what it actually means to build industry-defining AI.
Now we're going to shift gears because we're moving from what's happening to what to do next. We're going to hear from founders who are scaling AI-first organizations, and we're going to dig into how imagination meets impact in real workflows.
Then we'll close it with a conversation with OpenAI's Oliver Jay. Let's jump into part 2, though. So we're going to be kicking off with our AI-first panel. What does it really take to build an AI-first organization?
Please welcome to the stage our panelists, Antoinette Lattouf, Amina Rosenberg, Jackie Coe, Steve Hind, and Tom Humphrey.
Good evening, everybody. So we've had so many nuggets of knowledge and wisdom in the first half, and we too have 20 minutes to unpack exactly what it is to be an AI-first business. I have warned the panel that I am very good at interrupting and that I will use physical force if necessary, but they have consented. We want to start off by everybody's going to introduce themselves, their company, what they do exactly, and just how much AI is incorporated in their workflow. So I'm going to start. I'm a journalist, a broadcaster, and an author, and I worked in legacy media for 15 years, and 6 months ago I launched an independent media company where AI is absolutely part of our daily workflow because we do media analysis and media literacy. We're partnered with a UK organisation that is a news aggregate website that analyses sort of bias and what is covered. And at the same time, we're also critiquing the coverage of how AI is being legislated, policed, embraced, resisted, as well as how journalists are reacting to the changes. So there's this enormous cross-section and some really exciting opportunities, but a lot of tension points as well. Amina.
Hi, I'm Amina Rosenberg, but everyone calls me ARMS, like the body part. I'm one of the founders and portfolio managers of Minotaur Capital. So Minotaur Capital offers a global equities fund that uses AI and large language models in every step of the fundamental investment process. And that's from idea generation, so finding stocks that are interesting, through to a quick view of those companies, to deeper research, and also now using agents for every single one of our stocks that ongoingly monitors our positions in our portfolio. Most fund managers, it might surprise you to know, are actually stuck in the world of sort of static Excel spreadsheets and static Word documents. We're trying to change that.
Excellent.
Hey, I'm Steve. I'm one of the co-founders of Lorikeet. Lorikeet is a platform that ambitious businesses use to build universal AI concierges for their customers, which does things like customer support, but a whole bunch more than that as well. We obviously sell an AI product. We use a ton of AI products to write the code behind our product, all the way through to analyzing sales calls or writing updates for our customers about implementation. So it's kind of AI the whole way through, and we had the benefit of kind of getting the company started in the last year and a half and just being AI first by default.
Jackie.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jackie Coe. I'm one of the co-founders, co-CEO of a company called Relevance.AI, Australian founded, actually. We are one of the world's leading AI agents building platform, where we empower knowledge workers and domain experts of all kinds to essentially build and deploy AI agents for themselves. We want to allow people to be able to automate a lot of increasingly boring and repetitive work to essentially make work a lot more fun. And we've been fortunate enough to work with some of the largest companies in the world, like Databricks, Uber, Canva. Thank you for having me. Thank you once again. And other large companies like that.
Amazing. And Tom?
Tom Humphrey. I'm an investor with Blackbird Ventures, which is one of the larger, more active venture firms in Australia. We've invested in 170 companies to date, of which 70 are what we call AI core companies. We are on a journey as an investment firm as well on becoming AI and product enabled as a firm. We have 6 people on our team in a team called Product, Data and AI, which is 10% of our total team. And when I joined Blackbird 5 years ago, there was 0. So that kind of gives you a signal of the journey we're on in terms of becoming AI ourselves. We are less about the investment decisioning process as ARMS over there is. We're investing very early. I call it idea on napkin stage. There's not much AI can do at that stage, but we are much more on back office and firm-wide automation. So yeah.
Amina, I want to ask you to explain how you exactly classify what an AI-first business is and how that may differ, in your case, from a traditional hedge fund that just uses some AI tools in the process.
Yeah, we like to say we're human first but AI native, and we did launch within 12 months of ChatGPT, so we're very fortunate to start from a blank sheet of paper and think, how do we reinvent the whole fundamental investment journey using AI? And I'll give you a couple of key examples of that. So one of them is this quick view of a company. We used to go to a junior analyst and say, can you come up with a view of company XYZ? And they'd say, sure, and they'd go away for 2 months, come back 2 months later and say, company XYZ wasn't that interesting. And we'd go, great, thanks for that. Couldn't you tell us that earlier? And so we came up with what's called a quick view, which is basically this report, which is what the company does, what makes it interesting, if anything, what's the bull and the bear case, can it double in 3 years or 10x in 10 years, because that's our internal rate of return framework, and is this worth doing more work on now? And so we sort of forced them to come to a view quickly. That would still take them about 5 days to do. A senior analyst might take a day to do that, whereas now with the click of a button, we get Torient, which is our proprietary internal use only AI software that's built over the top of large language models. It does that in a matter of minutes. So that's a workflow that we've completely reinvented. Another thing is an initiation report. So when a portfolio manager starts to do work on a company, they'll write like a 30 to 50 page document on that company with growth rates that are there for that point in time, so it's a static document, but they get kind of, stale very quickly, whereas now we get AI to dynamically go and update those documents. So, an example is we noticed that a company that we own has a internal company blog, and they put out an internal target on their growth rates, which differed from the growth rates that it's put out to the market. And so our AI agent was able to find that the growth rates that they think internally are way more optimistic than what the market has. And so we were able to adjust our forecasts accordingly.
And Tom, you're looking at hundreds of startups. I'm keen to know how many AI-first companies you're seeing, as opposed to those who add it as a shiny add-on.
Yeah, it's definitely a mixed bag. I would say, I think this idea of being AI first, my kind of definition of that is like when you are building your internally teams or workflows, you're thinking about AI first and then human second. It's very similar to we're having a conversation a decade ago about product-led growth, and in a similar way, when I think about product-led growth, it's like when you're building sales and marketing function, do you think product first and then human second to do the job? And Australia's done a really good job of building product-led growth companies like Atlassian and Canva and Xero in New Zealand as well, and I think that we can be a great country for building AI-first companies too. I polled our portfolio just 2 months ago, actually. We have 150 companies now in the portfolio, and I polled them around like, what are the biggest challenges, what are the biggest success stories, and have realized that it's actually quite difficult to become an AI native organization. There are a lot of challenges they face. The people up here before were talking about AI slop in the code. Oftentimes there's conflicts between AI adoption and existing incentives of teams.
Yeah,
how do you find experimentation? Yeah.
We're going to have a quick whip around in a minute and talk about some of those experiences of fails or things that didn't land, or perhaps they wouldn't do again. But Steve, what would you say one of the most common misconceptions is about an AI-first business, or is it even in how it's framed? Does AI-first business frighten people that it's not human-centred?
I think probably the big misconception is the assumption that what AI first means is you take what some humans would have done and you do it with AI instead.
Yeah.
I think what AI first actually means is you use AI to give the humans superpowers and do a much better job than you could have done with AI. So, an example I mentioned before, like we have very complicated implementations with our customers because they're trusting us to speak to their customers in kind of high-risk environments. We give every one of our customers a really detailed weekly update on everything we've done with them and all the progress we've made. But that's actually generated by scanning over the linear tickets and the data in the system and the other information we have from our conversations with them in Slack and email. Now, in a world where we didn't have AI to do that, I don't think we'd have the time to give them that update. So the AI is kind of superpowers to do better work. It's not just replacing humans.
And Jackie, you talk about and you champion a 4-quadrant framework for AI adoption. And I came across that and I was like, ChatGPT, please explain to me the 4-quadrant AI framework. So it explains how you move from casually using AI for small tasks, and the 4 quadrants essentially build up to it entirely shaping the way you work. So, I mean, unless you can provide a better definition, which I suspect you can. But in addition to padding that out, for someone heading back to work tomorrow and they're ready to put AI to use, like what is the first move? Do you co-pilot or autopilot? Do you fix the tasks that you already do? Or do you reach for an entirely new process?
God, I get to nerd out a little bit. I call it the 2x2 matrix. Essentially, when you kind of think of AI, this is a really good framework to kind of go off of. There's 2 types of AI agents. There's one, Copilot, and Autopilot. And that's the extent of how much the agent is kind of left to its own autonomy to do a task. Quite frankly, Autopilot takes a lot more time. Copilot, pretty quick. You can get started, honestly, with a lot of different platforms today. But then the other really, really interesting thing that we've just found after working with so many different companies is really start thinking about 2 different types of tasks that you want to give AI agents and AI to do. One is current tasks. So tasks that you're already currently spending, hundreds, if not thousands of hours on every year. But the other side of tasks that is actually really, really important is aspirational tasks. So that means tasks that you should be doing, that you would love to be doing, but you're currently just not doing because you don't have the time for. So AI agents, when you're kind of thinking about deploying it, really think about it from a perspective of Copilot, Autopilot, current tasks, and aspirational tasks. And ultimately, the bread and butter, the most valuable ones are honestly, the Autopilot and aspirational tasks. And if you can get to that, you're in a good position.
What happens when you try something and it hasn't worked? You say, when you get to that, that's a good position. I want to talk about some of the missteps along the way, because we often hear about the success stories, which absolutely should be celebrated, but I think a lot of people would be keen to hear some of the other experiences. What's one thing you figured or you thought AI would knock over easily, Jackie, only to find that it was a total headache and it didn't deliver on the magic you had hoped?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, we started to work on AI agents quite early on, and one of the things that we, quite frankly, just got wrong on was how important expertise is, how important a domain expert is when it comes to deploying AI and AI agents. Quite frankly, a lot of these AI agents, especially when you're deploying it in a work setting, it's molded after the person who's building it. And you want that person to be the domain expert of your company, of the topic that you wanted to automate, because quite frankly, otherwise it's trained on millions or billions of like Reddit data, et cetera. It's pretending to be experts, but not really. And so that's why it's really important to actually find the domain experts who are currently doing those tasks, who knows this expertise really well, to actually help guide the AI agents, to write the prompts, to even be the human in the loop to give the quality check, and also ultimately give you, as the company, as the team, the confidence to actually put it into production and have it actually work on tasks in production.
So Steve, you're 2 years in with Lorikeet. What is something that you think, God, I blew money on that, or I would happily torch it and not do it again?
Yeah, I think probably actually our biggest fails have been putting too much effort into a not sufficiently ambitious use of AI. We use Lorikeet internally to do kind of research on performance of customers or trends or questions that we have about the code base or the functionality. And for a long time, we were kind of tweaking with like, what extra information can we add that is going to make this more accurate? Actually, the step change at our hackathon in September was someone just connected it to our entire Notion, our entire Linear, and our code base. And you just ask the question, and it goes and searches across all those sources and gives fantastic answers. And so actually, like, the thing that I was kicking myself was like, we were under ambitious. We were like, what little incremental things do we add to make this work better? Actually, the answer was to be more ambitious and just step change and say, what if we just give it everything? What will it be able to do? And I think a lot of the AI fails are of that shape. You know, people are trying to really locally optimize something, and they'd actually be better off stepping back and saying, can we try and shoot for something much more ambitious?
That's interesting, because that's at odds with what we heard earlier with one of the keynotes, that it's okay to slow down and pivot. You're like, just ramp up and go fully in.
Yeah, this is revealing my age, but when I learned to drive and did a defensive driving course, you know, before everyone had anti-lock brakes, they said, okay, if you've got to like brake as hard as you can, you've got to find like 9 out of 10, because 10 out of 10 is going to lock up the brakes and make you slide. So brake as hard as you can to find 10, and then ease back a little bit to 9, and that will get you to maximum stopping much faster than if you ease all the way up to 9. And it's the same thing with AI. I think you're much better off saying, what's the most ambitious thing I can think of? Be willing for it not to work, and then come back a little bit to the thing that will just work, versus saying, well, I know it can draft my email, and you do that for 2 years, and then you actually found out it could have been running your whole business.
Did you get your driver's license first round?
No, I reversed onto a footpath. The instructor said I was the best person she'd ever failed.
Okay, bit of context, good context to know. Tom, anything in your experience that you've gone, you know what, that was a dud. I wouldn't try that again.
In terms of AI?
I mean, it could be in life in general, but let's keep it to AI. In AI specific.
You mean we've been deploying a Blackbird, or just we've been, like I said before, like more around workflows. My pet AI project right now is a product we call Cortex, which is around building our database of our network at Blackbird, which is, you know, across the entire 60-person organisation, quite large. And our key value proposition as an investor with a lot of the portfolio companies is like, let's open access to that network. And so we have built the product, and then it's like applying AI to enable first the team, but soon founders within the portfolio to be able to kind of go into that network and go, help find me customer introductions, investor introductions, talent introductions. And the value of the product is super rich, but, you know, the reality is, when we first implemented the product, we stumbled, and it was around the data quality, because you know, data in, data out. So we've really been focusing on the data quality and enriching the data of the network first, and like understanding the people, and now that's starting to unlock.
And Amina, is there a common mistake you see in this space when people try and become AI first, or perhaps something you've learnt in your journey that you go, oh, hindsight is a wonderful thing?
Yeah, I think it's actually like more on that point of just like, you should always experiment. Like it's, I think, you know, too many people try and go to like a large language model, enter something in, and then get the wrong answer, and then bury their head in the sand. Like an interesting thing for listed companies is there's a lot of information on listed companies that lives in presentations. But one thing that's not really very well known is large language models are really bad at interpreting presentations, just generally. And so like at Minotaur, one of the things that we do is we run everything through a separate vision model before we put things into ChatGPT or one of the large language models. But it's about experimenting to know that that's going to happen, as opposed to just like, you know, getting a wrong answer and then thinking, oh, I can't be bothered like dealing with it anymore. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions about AI.
Either Jackie or Tom, whoever is keen to answer this, do you think in 5 years' time, like AI first business will mean anything? Like, I went to the University of Technology, Sydney, and I'm just like, University of Technology, I suspect all the universities have technology. Something that seems like a distinctive point at the time, or a differentiator, is it going to be meaningless in 5 years' time?
I mean, I definitely think it will. I think there'll always be laggards and winners in, you know, AI. Just as, you know, I was talking about how a decade ago we're talking about product-led growth, and today we still talk about product-led growth, distinct businesses. I would say the one thing which is quite interesting about AI is developing so rapidly, and so the goalposts for what I would define as an AI first or AI native company are continuously moving. There's major, like one big development I'd say is, right now we're talking about like you plug in OpenAI or Anthropic in the big generalized models. We're moving to a world where there's going to be much more smaller, specialized models fit for the task at use. We're moving to a world where it's more open source models, which are fine-tuned on company-specific data. And I think, with those developments, you're constantly a moving target in terms of what it means to be AI native. I think we will still be talking about this in 5 years from now.
Jackie, do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. I think what AI means will continue to evolve. I'm honestly crazy optimistic about the future. I think more people should be. I love this saying that I've heard recently, pessimists sound smart, optimists make money.
I love that. I'm going to steal that and pretend it's my own.
Yeah, but no, I think even 5 years from now, our definition of what AI, like high quality AI means will change, and that will continue to be very, very important.
Amazing. We have about a minute left. I haven't had to spear tackle anybody, so you're all keeping to time. Well done. We want to leave everybody with one piece of advice for someone who wants to build or transform their company to be AI first. Steve, we'll start with you. In addition to reversing onto footpaths, what else do you recommend?
You've got to increase your ambition and your output expectations first. Put the tools in people's hands and let them surprise you. If you give them tools first and you don't change what you expect them to output, there's not enough incentive to change. So raise the ambitions first, give people tools, let them surprise you.
Amazing. Amina?
I think just don't be scared. Like, everyone thinks that we're doing something revolutionary because we're using AI, but our underlying investment philosophy has been the same the entire journey through. So what we had 20 years ago to 10 years ago to now, we've always invested in companies that are mispriced because of long-term structural strategy change. The philosophy is the same. It's just the application of technology to the philosophy which is different. It's a bit like Excel in the 1990s. So you think about your workflows and what you're doing and how you can apply AI and large language models to the little things that you do.
Tom?
I love this concept of clean slate thinking, which is don't try to take AI and jam it into existing workflows and processes, but rather come with the framework of, if I was to start this process or workflow today without anything existing, how would I build it and design it? And that is, I think, the most important thing.
And we'll wrap up with you, Jackie.
It's the same what I said before, but because I worked on machine learning before Gen AI, but do stay crazy optimistic, because otherwise you're going to keep banging your head on it and you're going to get it to work, and eventually it will work.
A huge round of applause to our crazy optimistic panel.
Please welcome to the stage Head of AI Research, Steph Culazzo.
Three was the charm. Good. So nice to be here tonight. And in case you're wondering, this jacket is not made by AI. I know I'm disappointing you, but it's still like, some decent Italian fashion. I think that's okay. So, cool. So we're going to talk about my two favorite topics, AI and creativity, and how AI is transforming the creative workflow. How incredible it is to be alive in this era that I would define also as a new creative renaissance, where basically the sky's the limit and really imagination is what drives what you can create. And so at Canva, our mission is to empower the world to design, and AI has been like an amazing catalyzer that has really accelerated all our pillars, really helping our mission to come true. And recently, about 2 weeks ago, we introduced this concept of the creative operating system, where we have this visual suite, and then we have Canva AI that is the middle layer between the visual suite and the platform, where a lot of the AI innovation is coming into fruition. And so our goal is to really, at Canva, offer the best AI models seamlessly and right in the creative workflow. We have seen a lot of innovation coming out, and many, many times these models that come out of those new AI capabilities are a little bit disjointed from the workflow. They don't happen where we need them in the tools that we use in the day-to-day, because we are still in an era of experimentation where there's a lot of a random noise. And so one thing that we are really committed to is we don't want to offload the tedious job of figuring out what AI models are actually working to our users, to our designers. We want to do that work for them. And so one thing that we have done at Canva that I think every company should do as a great investment is really build a very robust evaluation layer that allows you to test new models really quickly, have like benchmarks, humans in the loop, like whatever does the job, but the time that it takes for you to test the new models and then realize if this is promising or not and roll it out potentially in production, do A/B testing, and then finally promote it to like maybe the main model that serves your customers, that time is really critical for the success of your business. In our case at Canva, we try to optimize that time so that we can surface the best model to the user and then push it to the UI layer where the user can actually leverage it. So how do we do that? There's a lot of noise that happens in the industry, but there's a lot of great diamonds that pop up once in a while. And so our job is really to bring them all into Canva and then create basically an abstraction layer where we can get access to our users to the best models without, with hiding all the complexity underneath. We also partner with amazing companies out there. We develop first-party models, but we also leverage third-party models. So a company like OpenAI, Black Forest Labs, Google Anthropic, and of course Leonardo, which became part of Canva last year, and really brought us also a lot of researchers and a lot of like a big acceleration, I would say, in the research field and development, helping to build intelligent models. And in fact, until 2 weeks ago, the world looked like that. So in order to build a design, you could use a diffusion model, you could make some good design that you could not edit. You could just pull the slot machine again and then try and then get that little corner moved to the left, but it won't even work very well. Or you could use Omni LLM's model, which became better than diffusion model in terms of controllability, and they understood the layout just a little bit more. But everything once created was just that, and you had to do it again if you wanted to change it. And so very often, AI is really good to get you to 80% of the way, but then it's the last 20% that allows you to really use it in your day-to-day job and not be just some experimentation that you're doing. And so 2 weeks ago, Canva introduced the Canva design model, which is the first model of its kind where the images become designs that are actually editable. So that was the big change where the designs is created, but then you can take it all the way to the 100% and really use it in a real world. And so one thing that we have noticed in the last few years is that there's this three-phase kind of diagram that we see that connects capability and adoption, where there's some new capability coming out, and it's so amazing and new and disruptive that users just want to get access to it in any possible way. I think we have all spent a lot of time on Discord making images or making videos on the terminal window, trying the latest new model. That's not how it's integrated into the workflow or in the tools, but at the beginning it's magical, so we're okay with that. And so the innovators will do that. Then we have a second stage where some of those capabilities become to be connected to the tools, and we see more innovators use it. But then finally, the big adoption is on phase 3, where AI is actually integrated into the workflow, and I can also collaborate and can use it with my team. So at that point, it becomes really like a replacement workflow for what I was using before, and then the adoption accelerates really fast. So an example of this is what we have launched 2 weeks ago, where basically AI is right into the design tab or into the editor or into the elements creation. And I can prompt, I can create something, and then I have it right there in my canvas to modify. So here I'm creating some elements, could be videos, could be graphics. We also introduce 3D graphics that can be generated, so full 3D models that you can rotate and move around and change. And then once it's all created, it's there in the editor, right into the workflow. Because as we all know, the creative process is not a linear one. I'm reminded of that every Friday night when my kids, we used to do like, hey, let's watch some movie, and now it's like, let's make some movie with AI. And so there I really learned how it's very similar to this diagram. And the most fun thing is like the entertainment is not the final product, of course. It's not the journey, it's actually the failure modes. Like you will not believe what kind of like rainbow unicorns on surfboards you can see. And so it just reminds us that like the creative process is iterative and also is collaborative. And so that's why we really wanted to push AI into the collaboration workflow. And we introduced Ask Canva, where anywhere in your design, you can just leverage AI as your collaborator. The same way you can ask someone to help you. Here you have the Canva AI agent that is an expert that can help you improve your design and make it a lot better. But where is the future going to go? The future, I think, it's in a place where AI really operates with shared context, persistent memory, so it remembers who you are the next day, brand awareness, so everything that you create is in line with your brand and your messaging, and delivers a personalized experience. We have, for the last few years, we have experienced a one-fits-all, right? Like the first version of ChatGPT, like it didn't matter, where you were located in the world and what you were doing and what was your goal and your task or the company you were working at, right? Everybody was served kind of the same answer. And then we are slowly moving into a world where we have personalized journeys for each user. We also we can integrate in real time direct feedback from the users and modify the agent response. We can incorporate that branding information that is so crucial, especially for enterprise. And also we have context that spans across multiple documents. And I think that's the strength of Canva there, because we have one platform that can do all the doc types. And so you can switch from like a document to a presentation to a video, and AI can keep track of the context of all that. It can help you do the work like a true collaborator. And so I'll just leave you with one thing that is for us a principle when we build AI, which is we are building AI around human creativity. So the humans are at the center, the ideation comes from the humans, and AI looks more something that is enabling or is augmenting, as JJ said. Someone like can help you do the day-to-day tedious work, like more of a dishwasher, right? I don't think anyone will be against that type of help, where we leave more time and more space to humans to just express themselves and come out with like amazing ideas and creations. Thank you very much.
Please welcome to the stage Cam Adams and Managing Director International of OpenAI, Oliver J.
These are crazy chairs. I'm not sure which way to sit.
So these are the best fireside chairs I've had.
I'm gonna move around.
It's got this like It's a great one.
I've been looking forward to this conversation all day. Well, actually, no, for months now, since we managed to land you. I think OpenAI is at the center of one of the most pivotal moments in human history, and I'm super keen to dive into it with you. But I just wanted to get one question out of the way. You joined OpenAI about 18 months ago?
Yeah.
I think the valuation of the company then was probably about 50 billion. It's now up to like 500 billion. They're touting a $1 trillion IPO. Why are you here? Why are you not just resting investing?
That's a good idea. All right. See, I mean, same reason why I think you're still at Canva, right? I think this is the
great answer.
What a time to be alive. Right? I think we're so lucky to be in our primes and yet see the before and after. Right? I think like this is such a pivotal moment in history, and I think it's just what a great time to be alive.
Now, for those that don't know much about you, you worked at really pivotal roles at Dropbox and Asana. You led international growth for both those companies. You were there across an amazing rocket ride of growth. OpenAI is now at 800 million users in the space of 3 years, the ChatGPT product, which is just unheard of. Like, no product has done that before. How is this different? Is it somewhat similar to Dropbox and Asana, just with more user growth, or is it just a totally different game?
I think about this a lot because I'm always trying to think like what can I apply from the past. And what I'm realizing is that the principles apply, right? I think the principles of PLG still apply, right? We want to get our best products in front of our users, reduce the time to the aha moment. But what's different is the steepness of this curve, and that is something I had never experienced before, right? Usually when you have a technology gets adopted, you have like early adopters, and then there's a chasm, and then you have like late adopters. I think we just like jumped over it, right? We just skipped that. And you go to a company, you see everyone's using it. It's not like the reason why PLG works in the past is because like you find a way in, and then you slowly expand, get more personas in. With AI, it's just like happening everywhere. And so you see more and more personas using our products, and then there's a geographic piece too, right? ChatGPT. I think we're very lucky. OpenAI was born in San Francisco as a research lab, but when ChatGPT launched, overnight it became a global product, and we became a global company right away. Whereas a lot of Silicon Valley companies, including companies I've been at before, you start in San Francisco, you build for the Bay, you build for the other unicorns, and then slowly gets adopted around the world. For us, it's been everywhere all at once, and so that's why I'm on the plane a lot.
I think it's actually one of the secrets, I think, to Canva's success is that we're based here in Australia, and it's a great place for talent, but it's a small market. Like, we've got 25 million people here. You're never going to build a product that scales to a Google, only thinking in the Australian market. And we thought global from day one, and we made sure that we're in 190 different countries and that we have an experience that feels truly local in all of those countries. And that's what continues to fuel our growth. It's what continues to fuel the amazing community that backs Canva and gets so excited about it and just spreads the word of it. I'm sure you get a lot of that energy as well. You're constantly on the plane. I think you just came from India to get here. What is it like being in all these different countries where AI is rolling out, and where you need to provide a really rich cultural experience as well? I'm sure people using ChatGPT in India are using it very differently to Japan or the US or Australia. So how are you dealing with that real cultural complexity?
Yeah, thank you for that question, because this is like one of my favorite parts of my job. Is I get to fly everywhere, talk to governments, talk to developers, talk to creatives, and compare different countries and I get different learnings. And you're totally right. AI is being adopted everywhere, but there are some nuances. And we can learn and take advantage of those nuances to build better product. I'll give you an example because I just came from India, and it's as fresh on my mind. India is super interesting because as a country, the average age is 29, right? US is 39, Japan is 49. And so the number of users in the 18 to 24 age is massive in India and growing. When we looked at usage patterns, what we saw in India was interesting in that we saw that a lot of people were using ChatGPT to learn in that age group. So they're usually in school or higher or universities. And so what we did was we actually went to, we actually sent our user researchers to India and actually get on the ground and actually watch and learn how students learn in a market like India. And the user insight there was what students are really going after, and they would ask ChatGPT. They didn't care as much about the answer, right? And this goes into the topics earlier around cognitive offloading, right? What we saw was the students really was asking about the chain of thought, right? People really liked using our reasoning models. They would like actually go through and like kind of see the reasoning pattern.
Yep.
And so that's how we launched study mode.
Ah, okay.
Right, which is a mode where you can actually, the model doesn't give you the answer, but it like nudges you like a tutor would. So that's just one of many examples of how we take lessons learned from around the world, and that's what inspires us.
I love that you can still do this amazing research into how users are actually using AI. It's not just this big black box that's some magical model that immediately figures out what every person in the world wants to use. You still need to shape the fundamental experience that people get in every country.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. At the end of the day, you need humans to have that touch.
There is undoubtedly like massive opportunity in AI, and I think one of the things that's most powerful to us is its democratization nature. You can now democratize not just information, you can democratize research, understanding. You can have a PhD in your pocket, I think, as Craig said, for $200 a month. You can democratize action taking and the achievement of goals, which I think is supremely powerful. One of the things, though, that kind of keeps me up at night is, are we furthering the digital divide with this technology? Is people's access to AI evenly distributed, or is it just going to wealthy developed countries that have all the infrastructure in place, and a bunch of other countries are getting left behind?
Our mission of the company is to ensure that the benefits of AGI, right, is spread to everyone in humanity. And so we think about this deeply. I think there's a couple ways we think about it. One is really around partnerships with governments, policymakers, universities, businesses, to really think about how you adopt AI in a responsible way, right? And so we're moving in the right place together. Australia is a great example, right? We're working with companies like Combank, obviously Canva, with Coles, right? And these are all companies that are not thinking about just like the bottom line. The conversations we're having is like, okay, how do we enable, empower, educate even the frontline workers in like Coles, right? So I think there's a partnership there, and that's a big part of the reason why we are expanding our footprint globally, is to build out those partnerships. The other part of how we think about it is through product, and how can AI democratize in a way that we've never seen before the capabilities that might in the past have been for the few. One area that I've been super excited about is the future of voice. And this is an area that we have been developing and investing a lot of time. And you'll see improvements, pretty dramatic improvements, just in the last year with our voice models. As someone who grew up in Hong Kong, right? I grew up speaking Chinese, writing Chinese. I was always like, it always baffled me that if I wanted to type Chinese, I generally have to type English to write Chinese, right? And then you think about it, like most of our digital experiences in the past 2-3 decades has been with this like QWERTY keyboard. I want to know who invented that thing, because it's it's been around for a long time, right? And we can't get off of it. But it is like clearly designed by English speaking, right? And it's really only relevant for Romanized languages. Vast majority of this world do not speak in languages that are Romanized. They're characters, Chinese, Hindi, and such. And so this is where voice comes in, right? I think voice as a new modality, when it's good enough, it will open up a completely new platform for voice native applications. And these will be reaching people who, in the past, they haven't benefited from the digital age, exactly what you talked about, right? So I think about the day when a rural farmer in India can make designs in their natural language, right? With ChatGPT and Canva together. That day is not that far away. And I think when I think about that as part of our mission, that's one of the areas I'm super excited about.
Don't worry, we're working on that as well. So we're there with you. I love that it's probably even more fundamental than most people think. Like being able to access a great intelligence through the desktop app or the website is great, but what you're saying about voice totally opening up technology to, frankly, an audience I barely even thought about, because we're so used to the way that we interact with technology and think that's the way that you need to do it. And voice being the gate to that is just an incredible door opener for me.
Yeah, well, it's just because I talked about rural India, I'm like, it's clear thinking about it. There's this example we have where we're working with a company that in India that is, they basically built a chat bot on OpenAI, but it's to serve farmers in India, right? And they've shown that they can increase the average income of farmers by 24%.
How do they do that?
Right? And what they do in the past, it's like almost like a call center, right? But now with OpenAI, a farmer can take a picture of their land, right? And they will actually come back with advice on like, okay, don't need a fertilizer, what's going on, what kind of pesticide do you need, etc. Imagine that now being available by voice, right? Voice and image only for every farmer. That's be incredible.
Yeah, that is incredible. I think one of the truly unique things about OpenAI is the rapid pace of growth and also the way that you're approaching it. You seem to be in everything. You got Johnny Ive working on hardware. You're doing $100 billion deals for AI infrastructure. You're working with countries at governmental level, which I know very few companies of any size doing that. How's that strategy play out? What's the incentive there for you to get all of Australia using ChatGPT or all of India using it?
We both have really broad missions, and for our mission to come true, we can't do it alone, and so it has to come through partnerships. So we developed the OpenAI for Countries program deliberately to partner with governments to help accelerate that each government's individual idiosyncratic AI strategy, which is different for every country. For some countries, what's top of mind for them is education. Countries like Estonia, like Greece, they're going all in. They're really thinking about, really pushing the needle on thinking about how AI can be embedded and sort of reframe higher education. For some countries, it's around infrastructure. It's thinking about all that's possible with AI. Right? We did a bottoms-up research that showed that in Australia, we can add 142 billion in economic output by 2030 with AI. Now, underlying that, you need a lot of compute. You need a lot of infrastructure.
Craig's going to give it to us,
right?
so that's fine.
Exactly. So you need Craig, right? And we need the government to work together to ensure that there's enough infrastructure. And so this is why we've developed the program. We think it's important to make sure that there's the infrastructure is there, the physical infrastructure is there, and then there's also I think about upskilling. Right? I think governments think about this a lot, and we want to think about upskilling in a broad, mass way. And this is why we are in the process of building taking what we've learned on the OpenAI Academy, which is around our lessons learned from training thousands of companies to kind of understand what's the curriculum we need, right, to teach people how to use AI and do it responsibly. and then we want to think about building a certification program, right? And then even building a jobs market. And we would want to do this in partnership with governments to ensure that the next generation of jobs, of talent, right, are well matched.
In the last couple of minutes we have, I'd love to bring it more local. You're here because OpenAI has opened an office here. It's been quite recent. You said you're onboarding 6 people next Tuesday.
Yeah, we have a few, and then we have like a big batch coming in, and we'll be continuing hiring more and more. We're super excited about Australia. I think that it's a market where we see tremendous pull in AI. I think there's a very pragmatic culture in Australia that this is not. I lived here for a little bit. I helped launch the Dropbox office here, I think 15 years ago. I don't know. It's been a while, but the culture has always been there. Right? It's very progressive and pragmatic, and we see the growth here. The growth in Australia, the user growth has gone. I think it's like 2.5 times since a year ago. So we're seeing a lot of momentum. We're very excited to partner with the government, partner with users, partner with companies like Canva, Combank, Coles, to really think about how do you take advantage of this AI era.
There's been a lot of discussion tonight about what we need to do more of here in Australia. What would you suggest we do? How do we move to the next level of AI adoption, being world-class, world-leading? How can we really make a home for AI here in Australia?
I think in the previous panel, there's a lot of excitement around experimentation, around leaning in. I think if there's one thing I've learned about what drives AI adoption is you have to get your hands dirty. You have to, and not just one time, because AI is constantly changing. You really have to get the tools in people's hands, and they have to try it. It's like that iPhone aha moment, right? But now you have to do it multiple times. So I think this is the mindset, and I see this in Australia already. So I would say we want to see that accelerate even more. Don't be afraid to just try. I think in the AI era, you also have to be more comfortable failing as well. All right, you got to throw away code, but at the same time, now you know that it's very easy to write code again, right? And so I think that mentality is actually very, very well suited from my experience living in Australia for a bit, and I'm excited to see what happens here.
Last question: what's your favorite prompt to use in ChatGPT?
Okay, this is a bit revealing. Obviously, we have 1,000 people in research, and they are the pride and joy of our company.
Yeah.
And whenever they update their papers and such, I have to say my comprehension level is probably at 20%. So my most often prompt, especially now that I have Atlas, our browser, is I'm just double clicking and asking please explain to a layman.
Well, that is a great place to leave it. I think that everyone is on a learning journey with AI, even the head of international. Thank you, Oliver.
Thank you so much.
And that brings us to the end of the scheduled content for the night. To help me close it out, please welcome back to the stage the one and only CJ.
I got so excited to walk on. I was just really hyped for this next part because it's been such an incredible night. A huge thank you to all of our speakers, panelists, and to all of you that brought the energy. Can we get a round of applause for everybody that presented? It was really great, yeah. And it's been so amazing to explore how humans and AI can truly work in harmony and where we can experiment and pull on that.
Now, there's one thing you should never do at a tech conference, and that's a live demo. I think there was so much on tonight that the only possible way we could break it down is with the help of AI. And I've really taken your notion of voice to heart, Oliver, and I'm really keen to try out voice mode in ChatGPT. So I think we should ask ChatGPT what tonight was all about. Are you there, Chatty? Are you ready to talk to us?
Absolutely, CJ. I'm right here. I'm ready to jump into voice mode. Let's do this live summary. Tonight's been a whirlwind of ideas, and I'm more than happy to break it all down. Let's give everyone the top 3 takeaways, nice and snappy.
All right. Are you?
I'll ask.
Go for it.
I'm CJ, though. Thank you, Chatty. What are the top 3 headline takeaways from tonight?
Absolutely, CJ. Here are the top 3 headline takeaways for everyone tuning in. First, tonight was all about how AI is fundamentally a human practice. We learned that AI isn't just about tech, it's about carrying forward our culture, our ethics, and our creativity. Second, we saw that curiosity beats caution every time. The biggest wins came from people who experimented boldly and weren't afraid to tinker and learn. It's all about staying curious. And third, we discovered that the future of creativity is about making AI so seamless that it becomes invisible. When AI just works in the background, imagination can truly shine. And so those are your 3 big takeaways: human-centered AI, the power of curiosity, and invisible creativity. Thanks for having me on stage.
I think they were pretty good takeaways.
That was pretty good.
I'm gonna test you though, chat. Chat, what was the best quote you could pull from tonight's content?
Absolutely, let's go for it. One standout quote that really captures the spirit of the evening is, "Pessimists sound smart, but optimists make money." That little gem was shared during the panel, and it really summed up the vibe of the night. Staying optimistic and forward-looking is the key to embracing AI. Thanks for the challenge.
Oh, you met it well. I don't have any more questions. I think it could take anything we throw at it.
No, I think that it's really great to experiment. Like we said, even though there are 2 CJs on this stage to Chatty, apparently. One last question, if we have time for one last one. What are 4 words you'd use to sum up our AI Vision event?
Absolutely, let's wrap it up with 4 words. I'd say human, curious, creative, and visionary. Those 4 words really capture the essence of what tonight was all about. Thanks for the great questions, CJ. Both of you. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, thank you.
I love how confidently it starts every answer, but it delivers. It's amazing.
Yeah, it was great. Well, that's a wrap for all of us, folks. Thank you so much for being part of our very first AI Vision hosted by Canva. We would love to hear what you think, and so please take your phones out. There's going to be a QR code coming up, and we'd love to have your feedback. What do you want to hear more of? What do you want to see less of, maybe? And what can we do to really bring this here? So thank you so much.
And of course, the real reason you're actually all here tonight is to connect with real people. So get out there, grab some drinks. The activations of the food stations are going to be open. We have a DJ all queued up, and the best of the night is ahead of you.
And we'll see you out there. Enjoy your networking, and thank you so much. So see y'all next time.